जब एक टीनेजर कैजुअल ड्रग अब्यूज करता है. Somebody said this to me recently, and I want you to look at this very, very closely. Somebody gave this as a reason for their defense, saying, "Apna bura kaun chahega?" You gotta be very careful about people who know how to use rhetoric. It was Voltaire who said that a witty saying proves nothing. Well, lots of extensions of that can be said. You want to come across these people. ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं जिनको बड़े पावरफुल किस्म के pithy statements make करना आता है, जो कि on the spur of the moment you will not be able to really come up with a comeback. You'll be very impressed by the spontaneity with which they said something which made perfect sense at that point of time. गौर से सोचा कीजिए कि जब आपसे कोई इंसान कोई बात कहता है तो उसमें कोई substance भी है या they just found something to say. अपना बुरा कौन चाहेगा? I'm going to give you examples across the human lifespan just to destroy this stupid statement. Don't ever allow somebody to say अपना बुरा कौन चाहेगा as a logical statement to you again. Childhood, number 1. क्या बच्चे अपना बुरा चाह रहे होते हैं जब वो बोलते हैं कि हमें हरी सब्जी नहीं खानी है? क्या आपने कभी कोई ऐसा बच्चा देखा है जो कि एग्जाम से ठीक पहले बजाय पढ़ाई करने के खेल रहा होता है या वीडियो गेम देख रहा होता है या मेरी रील्स देख रहा होता है? ऐसा देखा है कभी? क्या वो अपना बुरा चाह रहे होते हैं? नंबर 2, टीनेजर्स. जब एक टीनेजर कैजुअल ड्रग अब्यूज करता है तो क्या वो अपना बुरा चाह रहा होता है? That's not an example that can be cited. That's not a logical thing to say. अपना बुरा चाहना is, हाँ, जब हम लोग टीनेज में बुरी रिलेशनशिप्स में नहीं पड़ते? डोंट वी गेट involved with people who are very obviously bad for us, but we just do that sometimes to defy our parents, saying, "I'll show you, old man." Yeah, that. What about young adults? So young adulthood, and are we still very good at making decisions? Classically, we're not. So have you ever seen somebody who's a young adult but takes up a job just for the sake of money? 40 साल लगते हैं करियर बनाने में, केवल पैसे से हो जाएगा? Have you ever taken the example of a person? Have you ever seen a person who gets married just purely because of sex and physical attraction? These are bad decisions, guys. क्या ये लोग अपना बुरा चाहते थे? Let's go to slightly older people. So let's come to, for example, parents or middle-aged people. Have you ever seen somebody who has stopped learning after they were 25? कुछ भी नहीं सीखा, कोई ऑनलाइन कोर्स नहीं किया, कोई वर्कशॉप अटेंड नहीं की, अपना बुरा चाहते हैं. Have you ever seen a person who's middle-aged and does not exercise? There are so many examples. Let's come to old people. क्या old age तक हम लोगों की decision making बहुत अच्छी हो जाती है? Let's give that a shot. Have you ever seen an old person who makes a disproportionate number of sacrifices for their kids without expecting anything back? You know what happens to a person who makes a very large number of sacrifices for their kids or for generic populations? Well, they end up losing out. At the end of it, they may have a good feeling saying, हम कितने महान हैं कि हम लोगों के लिए कितना कुछ करते हैं, but sacrificing depletes your resources. जितनी चद्दर उतना ही पैर फैलाना चाहिए ना? I know a very large number of people who get a real kick out of sacrificing. And I feel very sad when they're young, don't really acknowledge, leave alone repaying, don't even acknowledge the fact कि आपने हमारे लिए कितना कुछ किया था. So, I'm very tempted to say this one again, so this one has to be said, please. I really don't believe, this could be just me, but I really don't believe that anyone should be allowed to retire. Old people do retire. जैसे ही किसी इंसान का retirement शुरू होता है, within the first few months you start seeing a very steady decline. Suddenly these people start getting old. And I don't mean that in a physical sense, I mean that in a psychological sense. Suddenly they're not just retired, but they're very tired. And old age finds them very, very quickly. So I wanted to give you a fairly decent number of examples of apna bura kaun chahega as being one thing that somebody can just very wittily say to you in the, spur of the moment. And you have to be very alive, alert, and awake to the possibility that it's not always logic that is causing you to feel persuaded by somebody. Sometimes it could just be rhetoric. If you want to learn rhetoric and more about how this is done, Logophilia does something called the Logophilia Public Speaking Programme. We take this very seriously. We would love to see you in the classroom. If there was any part of this video that made sense to you, I would love to hear what your comments are. If you have more examples about what I just said, please contribute. When you comment, other people get a sense of camaraderie, get a sense of community, because of which your whole experience of participating in these proceedings becomes so much more wholesome. In case you think logophilia is making a difference to your lives, please let us know. We thrive, we wait, we long to get some encouragement from the people to whose lives we're making a difference. Thank you for listening to me.